one of the greatest seasons that we've ever seen in this decade, where he went 45, 6 touchdowns, and had 122 passer rating. Passer rating.
Welcome back, everybody, to Let Me Finish. Today we're going to talk about the all-decade team for the NFL that they put out, and we're going to talk about mainly a few snubs that we think that could replace somebody on the team. We're going to talk about a couple of the positions we feel like maybe they misnumbered some, and we're going to talk about some people who thought got snubbed but really didn't. All right? So, Alex, let's get into the first person who you think got snubbed or didn't get snubbed.
So Brees and Rodgers is one that a lot of people have come up with. And a couple things. One, Brady ruined this by being good for 2 decades because he shouldn't have taken 2 spots on 2 consecutive all-decade teams. That just doesn't really happen. Second, I think they got it right. Brees certainly has the pure counting stats. He's got 8,000 more yards. He's got 40 more touchdowns over the decade. However, when a guy wins, when you're playing quarterback, and that is the position that I think correctly so to a certain extent, even if I think we overdo it at times, associate the most with winning. And the guy that you're going up against has 2 league MVPs and won a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP in this decade. And you weren't even an all-pro in this decade. I think the case is made pretty hard. And I think Rodgers' peak was for sure higher. And I think his longevity in terms of this decade was good enough. I mean, it really wasn't until the last 3 years that he hasn't been Rodgers, so to speak. Right. And Rodgers has 1 losing season. Brees has 4 in this decade. So also Rodgers has one of the greatest seasons that we've ever seen in this decade, where he went 45, 6 touchdowns, and had 122 passer rating. So I think that gives the edge to Rodgers. I think they got that right.
I don't even think it's an edge, honestly. I think it's like a whole stair step from Brees to Rodgers, and it's because of the 2009 Super Bowl. If Brees won it in 2010, then maybe it would be an edge. But, I mean, you just laid it out. I know that Brees has all of the stat-stuffing numbers, and he has been probably one of the most consistent quarterbacks at his peak or near his peak. Minus Brady, but yeah.
Never rated him below an 83.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. Look, when you call somebody the most gifted thrower of the football and his peak and longevity was in the 2010s,
it's nobody. Hard, yeah.
Right.
No,
it's hard
Rodgers
to put somebody above him.
I don't think Gore should be on this all-decade team. I don't actually. I think it should have been Le'Veon Bell at the running back spot.
Okay.
And again, like I am rewarding guys who played less or had higher peaks over guys that I don't think had necessarily as high a peak. And Gore, look, to be perfectly honest, like Gore's best years were in the early 2000s with San Francisco. Like 2010 to now, like
he just kind of accumulated a bunch of numbers.
Right, like he's still been good, but he hasn't been great. And then certainly in this era where you expect your running backs to affect the passing game a little bit more, he hasn't done that. Now, I know Peterson and Lynch are on this roster as well, and so they didn't make nearly the impact in the passing game. But Peterson, if I'm not mistaken, his MVP season was in this decade. Lynch and Lynch is just he's beast
one of the most dominating running backs,
and he's got one of the most and he's at least he has some iconic moments this decade. Like Gore doesn't have any iconic moments this decade, so I would have given it to.
Marshawn Lynch actually has less yards than the other 3 and Le'Veon Bell on this list, but they put him on the list because of how iconic and how dominating.
And look, he was part of that the would have been dynasty in Seattle.
Yeah.
But Bell.
Go ahead.
No, but Bell was Bell got 4 All-Pros, 2 of them a second team this decade. And this is what probably really does it for me. He's got 3 1,500 scrimmage yard seasons. One of them was for 2,000 scrimmage yards, Bell. And he's got 2 double-digit touchdown seasons. And Gore doesn't have any of those. He's never had 1,500 yards this decade, scrimmage-wise.
Right.
Gore in this decade hasn't been in the elite class of running back, and Bell clearly has been for the better half of it. Right. And his counting numbers over Gore or over Bell, Gore's counting numbers over Bell are 2,600 more yards from scrimmage total and 12 more touchdowns. When you consider that he's got 4 seasons on him, like it's not nearly that impressive.
Right. On a net basis, it's not even close. And you could even make an argument for like Jamal Charles being over Gore, because the first 5 years of this decade, Jamal Charles was in the elite class of running back before he kind of fell off the map. So his peak was much higher. Right. So unfortunately, because Jamal Charles was a special talent, man. He was like Christian McCaffrey before Christian McCaffrey.
I don't know if he was that, but he had 4.3. I think he was sub 4.4 speed. He was and I'm a Texas fan, so hook 'em horns and love Jamal, but I don't know that Christian, but yes, he was really good and he had a very, very high peak.
Now I want to shift to the defensive side of the ball, and specifically with the DBs, the ones making it being Chris Harris Jr., Patrick Peterson, for those that don't know, Richard Sherman, and Darrelle Revis. My pick for who got snubbed, if we're keeping the same amount of DBs that made it, is potentially Joe Hayden, who had more pass breakups than anybody on that made the team. He had the second most interceptions of anybody who made the team, and he was second in quarterback passer rating when targeting Joe Hayden. So that's my pick for snub on DBs. Alex, what do you think about any defensive snubs?
I would say Cameron Wake probably over Julius Peppers. Now there is not a longevity versus peak really debate here. Peppers played 144 games this decade. Cameron Wake played 141. They both made 4 Pro Bowls. Cameron Wake made 4 All-Pro teams, 3 times as a second team All-Pro, and Peppers made 2 one time But if you do go look at the counting stats, QB hits 215 to 125 in favor of Wake. Tackles for loss 93 to 84 in favor of Wake. Sacks 95 to 78 in favor of Wake. Forced fumbles 21 to 22 in Peppers. So the counting numbers outside of the forced fumbles, which Peppers has 1 more, are really, really heavy to Wake. And if you go back and look, Wake's got 5 seasons of double-digit sacks. Peppers has 4. Peppers is an all-time great. He's 4th all-time on the sack list. Like, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But just this decade, I think it's pretty clear, even if you're not a defensive, expert or whatever, that you can go look at their resumes and go, okay, no, Wake was better this decade.
All right, and then one that we want to sneak in at the end that nobody was expecting. Alex?
I would have had Hopkins over Larry Fitzgerald.
2 times.
No, look. Okay, so this is y'all will notice a pattern here with my arguments. The peaks over the longevity for when you're going to narrow it down to a decade, and stuff like that, and not people's entire careers.
Nobody's saying DeAndre Hopkins' entire career is better than Larry Fitzgerald's entire career at this moment in time.
No, but I do think, look, he's DeAndre Hopkins has been a 3-time first-team All-Pro. He's got another second-team All-Pro, and these are obviously the AP All-Pros, not the Pro Football Writers Association or Pro Football Focus. Even if their All-Pro team might be better. Anyway, no. So Hopkins has been a 3-time first-team All-Pro. Larry obviously has all the counting numbers. But I would also note for people that want to say, well, Larry also has the playoff performances. He does. He has the awesome game against Green Bay, right? Where I think it was it Palmer or Kurt Warner scrambled out, threw it back across the body, and Larry Fitzgerald took it 75 yards, and on the subsequent play scored the game winner in overtime. Yes, but the fantastic, absolutely awesome playoff run that Larry went on that would have, had it not been for Santonio Holmes toe tapping it from the best throw that Ben Roethlisberger's ever made in the back of the end zone, would have ended with a Super Bowl MVP for Larry Fitzgerald, wasn't this decade.
Right.
So that playoff run, which was one of the greatest playoff runs we've ever seen, and I think it's going to be unfortunate that it gets lost to history because it didn't end in a Super Bowl victory. Right. That's actually not part of this discussion. Otherwise, yeah, no, I probably would go Larry, right, if for no other reason than that. Right. But Hopkins overall, I think, has played at a much higher level, and it's not like, and he hasn't, like, unlike Rodgers, who you could make the argument has kind of dipped a little bit in play these last 3 years. Like, you can't make the argument that for Hopkins, like, if anything, he's just gotten better because his lack of counting statistics comes from the fact that he wasn't drafted till 2013, not a downslide play.
Yeah.
So I would favor Hopkins over Fitzgerald.
All right. If you like the video, hit the
have
like
fun
button.
Watching the draft.
Yeah. If you dislike the video, comment on it and tell us if you think we wrongfully dropped somebody out, if you think somebody else should have gotten in, if you think somebody else got snubbed, what you think of the format of the list, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll be out.